Hello and welcome to Bingemas, a 6-part holiday special here on the Ringer Dish feed. I'm your host, Jodi Walker, and we are on week 3 of binging the holidays with all of your Ringer favorites with movies on Hallmark, Lifetime, and Netflix. And today that means...
On the third day of Christmas,
two absolutely bananas Christmas movies, loosely based on the real-life coupling of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, that will have you wondering if you ever knew anything about football, Taylor Swift, or Christmas magic at all before you watched these films. Lifetime's Christmas in the Spotlight and Hallmark's Holiday Touchdown, a Chief Love Story. And to break down this insane movie premise twice in a row on 2 different networks, I could only ask our resident Ringer Taylor Swift expert and actual NFL journalist, Nora Princiotti. Welcome to Bingemas. Merry Bingemas. How are you?
Merry Bingemas, Jodi. I am so excited to be here.
It's just the best. What is your relationship with original holiday films, the likes of which we're covering on Bingemas? I'm curious.
Yeah, so historically, the Hallmark versions, the Lifetime versions, I've never been super well-versed. I love a Christmas time special. I love the holiday season. I love to feel festive, but it's never something that I've gotten super involved in. I will say that as a self-professed and deeply avowed Lohanista,
yes.
Christmas movies of the Netflix variety have become important to me in the last couple of years because I will become invested in anything that Lindsay Lohan is doing. So that's increased my Christmas movie viewing.
I'm curious if you were set up by big Netflix to say this, because I feel that nothing could thrill them more than that they did, cop this holiday structure that we talk about in Bingemas.
Yeah.
They got the stars that would bring our generation right into it. Lindsay Lohan, Chad Michael Murray, etc. And now you associate that kind of movie with Netflix.
Yeah, it's not that I'm aware of the Hallmark movie phenomenon for what it is. I would associate a certain type of formulaic but lighthearted and wonderful and sort of wacky Christmas movie with Hallmark or Lifetime, but they just never drew me in the way that Netflix has managed by involving one Lindsay Lohan. However,
who did they involve now, Nora, that may have drawn you in?
Yeah, Taylor Allison Swift. They really got me with that one.
When we heard the premise of this movie, which is just the premise of Taylor Swift's life, and we will start with Christmas in the Spotlight, and we will move on to Holiday Touchdown, a Chief's Love Story. Thank you. I keep wanting to call it, what do I keep wanting to call it?
You want to call it Christmas with the Chiefs.
I want to call it Christmas with the Chiefs because that's a better name. And that is what it's about. So Christmas in the Spotlight is very much just fake Taylor Swift.
Yeah, the funniest thing is that one of these movies is actually not about Taylor Swift.
It's not.
And yet its entire reason for being has to be that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are dating.
And it is about, and truly, there's a great article on VanityFair.com about how this movie came together. And it literally was they were like, oh, that's crazy how Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce fell in love. That's like a Hallmark movie. We should make a movie about this. And then what they do is make that entire movie about marketing, which is so funny and so Hallmark. But I will say, before we get into the individual movies, for me, Holiday with the Chiefs, Christmas with the
That's
Chiefs,
what it's
a
called
holiday
now.
Hallmark special,
Touchdown,
was a much more enjoyable viewing experience than the Taylor Swift Bobo Travis Kelce story.
Okay, interesting. I actually had a different experience.
Okay.
I had more fun with Christmas in the Spotlight, although I had fun with both. Part of it is because I think Holiday Touchdown, a Chiefs Love Story. Obviously, this is a movie very centrally involving the Kansas City Chiefs. It has clearly been sanctioned by the Kansas City Chiefs. As someone who covers the NFL, the Kansas City Chiefs sneakily, one of the darkest and meanest and least moral franchises in the NFL.
Wow. That is not coming through in Christmas with the
Like,
Chiefs.
the kicker doesn't think that women are humans,
Right,
and they are
I do know
definitely,
that.
like, some of the most likely to employ former domestic abusers.
Yeah, and they did not bring that up, which is
Yeah,
so
it didn't
crazy.
come up.
Whereas Christmas in the Spotlight is really drawing on the actual lore, while almost seeming to have absolutely no understanding of football, what it is, how it is played, and where it is played. And that is coming from me, someone who similarly misunderstands those things. I have literally so many questions for you about Christmas in the Spotlight. But before we get to them, I'm going to hit you with the Lifetime synopsis of the movie, which I will say honestly, I had to make
Love.
several edits to because of typos on the Lifetime website. Bowen is a popular musician and celebrity who, despite always singing about love and relationships, hasn't found Mr. Right yet. When she meets Drew, a pro football player, backstage at her show, there's an undeniable spark between the two of them. When Drew publicly declares he has a crush on Bowen, their feelings grow stronger. But with people questioning if their feelings for each other are real or just for show, the pressure mounts from the press, paparazzi, their fans, and even their family.
Ooh.
Really just one of their families, because the other one doesn't exist. The pair has until the end of the holiday season to decide if they want to stay together or let it go down in flames.
Okay, quick note.
Yeah.
Can I just say this really bothered me, and this came up many times throughout the movie where it's just like something was almost right, but it was just a little off. To decide if it's going to be forever or let it go down in flames.
Yeah.
Would mirror the lyric from Blank Space, and I
Yes.
think would still communicate what they're trying to get across here. So why are we not just getting it right? I don't know.
See, and it's also factually incorrect because there's no deadline on them falling in love. Because there's no magic in the movie. The magic is fame and Taylor Swift. So there's, as it often is with Hallmark movies, there's no magic that's being like, when the clock strikes midnight, you will stop being famous if you don't fall in love. There's no deadline, as this synopsis is saying. But, you know, it doesn't matter. We saw the movie that we saw. For me, like, my main takeaway and the thing that I couldn't get past with this movie as we get into the plot is that because Bowen is Taylor Swift and they call him Drew in the synopsis, but he mostly goes by Gonzo.
Drew, Gonzo, Gonville.
Because these are both people that are bringing 80,000 to 100,000 butts into seats with their jobs as the most famous pop star in the world and the most famous wide receiver in the world. That international sport of football. You really need a lot of people to convey that someone is famous. You need butts in the seats.
Right.
You need paparazzi. You need a larger budget for extras, which is something that keeps coming up on Bingemas. This movie is so outrageously empty. Like, all rooms are empty. Backstage at Bowen's superstar show, completely empty. It's just her and her manager. It's also, other than the original songs, which we have to get into, quite silent. Like, there's no backing track. It's so quiet and so empty that I think that was the difficult part for me. And Lifetime's a different breed than Hallmark. It is a little more like that.
Well, and also between these two movies, I almost found, and like, we'll get to Holiday Touchdown, but it was so clearly sanctioned, and like the NFL or the Chiefs or whoever turned over the archives and all the NFL film stuff. And so sometimes it would still look like a kind of dinky Hallmark movie, but then big swaths of it would be these like super big budget, high production value NFL like panning shots or archival footage and all of that stuff. Christmas in the Spotlight obviously doesn't have that. And it is so empty, as I've been taught to expect from these movies from you. But despite the fact that I was convinced that at least like 3 of the characters were AI, like somebody's guild needs to look into this.
The AI on these movies is getting outrageous because we're just not there yet, you know?
We're just not there yet.
We're not there with the tech.
And I know, I'm told that I'm forgetting the character's name, but Gonzo's best friend on his team.
Okay.
That's not a real guy. I'm sorry. I know there's an IMDb page for that guy. I know everyone's claiming that's a real guy. When you watch him move across the screen, like the outline of him
it's
as his
blurred
person,
behind him.
it just wasn't
he has
right.
A tail.
Something was not right.
Was it when he was told he had to keep the relationship a secret and he said, I can't even tell Cassandra?
I can't even tell Cassandra.
I'm so sorry. That is not your girlfriend's name.
Well, but that also made me wonder if they meant that as a reference, because there's like an incredibly deep cut Tortured Poet song called Cassandra.
Yeah, they did. I mean, the references are as bold as they are subtle. They are everywhere while doing some pretty major things to differentiate her from Taylor Swift. So our main lead is Bowen. The movie Christmas in the Spotlight opens up with her filming a music video for her Christmas album a couple days before Thanksgiving. Kind of feels like you'd maybe want to have this in the bag by then. The song is Alone for Christmas, and I'm just going to say, bit of a banger.
Kind of a banger.
I was sort of impressed with the original music, particularly this song, Alone for Christmas.
Yeah, the music was good. The only thing that really struck me was these are Katy Perry songs.
That is correct.
Like they're trying.
Except for the last one, which is randomly country and doesn't have a chorus.
Yeah, doesn't have just not discernibly.
It is just sung from beginning to end like a novel. It doesn't have a bridge.
It's just over.
A pretty famous Taylor Swift thing, no bridge. And then also, do you think that Taylor Swift at the end of her music videos yells cut herself? At the end of this music video, when she's done filming, she says, cut, print it. That's a wrap, ladies, to the dancers.
I will tell you
might.
honestly, I do think she does that.
Because I guess she does like everything front to back. She's the director, she's the writer, she's the talent.
And also, I'm sure if you're Taylor Swift, some of these things do approach mundane at a certain point. But if I were in her position, there are so many things about that I'm sure I would try to enjoy and get a lot out of. But being able to yell cut at the end of filming your music video, like that's fun.
Yeah, I'm going to yell at the end of this podcast.
I don't need $1 billion, but I do want to yell
You're
cut
gonna
at
yell
the end.
touchdown, like
Touchdown!
like Travis Kelce's fake little niece in this movie, and I'm going to yell cut. Okay, let's get into the Travis Kelce of it all, because I like to know how many Vanessa Hudgenses star in this movie. And unfortunately, for years, the answer is none. But who does star in this movie is Leith Walschlager, whose name I've had to learn to say, and I'm still probably saying wrong, because he also notoriously played Gronk in the Aaron Hernandez show. And the clip of him playing Gronk went extremely viral because he's really good at it. He sounds just like Gronk. He looks enough like Gronk to he has the aura of Gronk, and that really comes through in the Travis performance as well.
Yeah.
And apparently he is real life friends with Gronk. So he's been working on that impression and performance for a while. I would say the Travis Kelce one is a little less studied.
Yeah. Well, see, here's the thing. Because the role of the tight end, he played Gronk, famous tight end, has a kind of meathead vibe to him that Travis Kelce, to some extent, also embodies. This man is playing the role of a tight end, which is different than the role of a wide receiver. And my first, this character is not a wide receiver. He's just not. He doesn't have wide receiver vibes.
Why? I would have no idea. Why is that?
A wide receiver is not a meathead role.
Okay.
A wide receiver is like a diva, kind of, I can do anything. Not a silly goose in the tight end sort of way. You don't really block very much. You're not running into guys. And so I do think I'm a fan of Mr. Leith Walschlager.
Uh-huh.
And I'm an enthusiast in the Leith Walschlager fall and winter that we seem to be having here. But canonically, the role that he is meant to play is that of a tight end. And I do feel that he has been miscast as a wide receiver. This character should not have been a wide receiver.
Yes, and so stay with me here. What if we just made him a tight end, which is what
Travis Kelce is?
There does seem to be some legal issue. It's all I can imagine is that they are not wanting to be sued for libel because there are certain things that they're not saying. So Travis Kelce's brother, Jason, is represented in this film by Rob. he is the quarterback
Right.
of the team. So that is also a different position. And he is
And they're
frequently—
on the same team.
They're on the
whereas
same
IRL,
team.
not the case.
The Boomers. Is that right? The Boomers?
The Boomers or the Bombers?
The Bombers. I was like, when I said it out loud, but the Bombers doesn't sound any better. We don't really know where the Bombers are located. It's
Okay,
just—
except that they play in a CGI Yankee Stadium. Or like in Yankee Stadium with a CGI Bombers Stadium.
I know that some people are listening to Bingemas and not watching the movies, and that is fine. I do that too. I listen to podcasts where I haven't watched it just because I like knowing what's going on. It's basically the point of Bingemas. I need you to know the plots of these movies. However, if you are listening, you have not watched Christmas in the Spotlight.
Yeah, watch Christmas in the Spotlight,
You have
guys.
got to get your eyes on these football scenes because it's as bad. It's bad on the field where you're just watching like absolute just men. They're just men. They are not football players running around in generic jerseys. Then they cut to what we are to believe is the Jumbotron, but looks no bigger than an average high school football screen. And I swear to you, they could have just filmed the people, put it on the Jumbotron. Instead, they have taken little Sims characters who are running around in no formation. Like they are truly just zooming around. It's crazy.
Can I unpack one element of the football?
Of course.
So, Gonzo is described as a 5-time MVP.
Okay.
We currently, in the NFL this season—
I want to laugh together. Tell me what's wrong with this statement.
So, in the NFL this season, there's a possibility— it's kind of an outside chance still, but there is a possibility that a non-quarterback, probably Saquon Barkley, who's a running back for the Eagles, might win MVP this year. If that happens, it will be the first time since 2012. It will be the first time in over a decade that a non-quarterback has won MVP. If Drew Gonzo Gonville is a 5-time MVP, he is the best wide receiver in the history of the NFL by like a dramatic margin.
Which is more confusing because something that is happening with both of these characters, who are frequently described as the biggest pop star in the world and the best wide receiver in the world, and I guess you are saying of all time. The best football player of all time, perhaps. But they are always talking about how their numbers are down. And that's how they say it.
His numbers can't be down.
He says—
his numbers have never been down.
I'm afraid my contract isn't going to get renewed because my numbers are down. Like,
it's
they're talking
strongly
about
implied he doesn't have a house.
It is not implied, Nora. His ass does not have a house. He is never at his house. He is always lurking around in someone else's house. His brother, Jason Kelce, has several homes. They go on their second date. They go on their first date in her private plane, which— at first I was like, why are they not flying anywhere? And then I was like, good for her. Don't take his ass on a plane. And you know Taylor Swift can't take this backlash about the environment anymore anyways.
Yeah.
Don't take that plane ride for this knucklehead.
Although, I'd imagine for how much she uses that thing, I'd be like, wouldn't you want to go somewhere else? But
oh, yeah. She would be zooming all around the Midwest to all of the fake stadiums
like, you
want to
go pick up a coffee?
So she does their first date after their meet cute is at her concert. It is one of the least cute meet cutes I've ever seen. Like the complete lack of— it's not— and I don't really even want to blame the actors because it's not written to be charming. It's written like he is bumbling, but he, in like a matter of seconds, scares her, basically. He says he walks up to her and she says, "Are you with the Children's Hospital?" He says, "No, we just snuck back here." Also, it's impossible now to see— so he has taken his niece to the concert. It's impossible now to see a grown man taking a girl to a concert and not think of the horror movie Trap with Josh Hartnett. Have you seen it?
I don't watch horror movies.
Okay, well, you know, it was a huge pop culture moment.
Actually, this doesn't apply to me.
And so I'm glad that you made it out without having to think about the horror movie Trap, although it's incredible and you should watch it. It's so funny.
I can't do that.
And it is likewise based on Taylor Swift. It is based on what if we did a horror movie inside the Eras tour, basically.
Oh, I definitely can't watch this.
And it's like
Jodi.
no one gets hurt. No, well, it's hard to explain. That's a different podcast, in fact. So he says we snuck back here to the meet and greet where she is standing, as you can imagine, completely by herself.
Yes.
They could not employ a fake security team through Lifetime. She's completely by herself. He says, we snuck back here. And then he says, oh, sorry, I'm a bomber. So then she is scared for her life. And then he's like, oh, no, the football team. And then she's thrilled to meet him. But like, it's just so uncharismatic. So they meet. He eventually reaches out to her on Twitter or whatever his version of Twitter is. I wish they had done the bracelet thing, or I wish they'd just done it like the real story, which is much more charming.
Do you think they should have incorporated podcasting into the storyline?
Yeah, there just can't be enough podcasting heroes and heroines on these films. It's actually shocking that they are not podcasters yet.
Well, and then she doesn't actually want to go out with him. Like, this is
No.
something that I felt was not revisited, is that initially her manager, who I spent a lot of this movie wondering if this manager was at all supposed to be a Tree Payne character.
Right.
Or if they were just completely not doing that.
Yeah.
The manager is such a big Bombers fan.
Yeah, she's a huge Lifetime Bombers fan.
She's a Lifetime Bombers fan. Like, oh my God, Drew Gonzo Gonville wants to go out with you. This is the craziest thing that's ever happened. You have to do it. And Bowen's like, I only care about the children's hospital, but I'll do it.
And she only cares about the children's hospital because who's dead? Her dad. You know someone's dead. It's her dad. There's always someone dead. It's her dad. And she wants to help the children's hospital, which is obviously not where he was treated, but I guess
it's never addressed.
I guess one of his doctors is there now. I don't begrudge her helping the children's hospital, but just the loopholes they are going through to be like, somebody's got to be dead, and I guess it's your dad. Is
and
crazy.
She's a capital G, capital P good person because she's like, I will do
anything for the children's hospital. So yeah, the manager basically gets them together not for PR reasons, but because she wants to meet the famous Gonzo family who everyone just loves. They go on their first date. Then it goes well. They kiss on the first date that's Lifetime, baby. Lifetime will do it.
Kiss with like lifting onto countertops.
Yeah, they're elevating. They're getting levels.
Yeah.
They're just trying to get
like
to each other.
A leg wrap situation.
There's a bit of a straddle at times. That happens on their second date, which Gonzo hosts at his brother's house because he is a millionaire, 5-time, all-time wide receiver who does not have a home.
Yes.
He sort of lives in his brother's shadow. So for as great as he is allegedly at football, although his numbers are down, his brother is even better and is frequently referred to as the star quarterback.
Right.
Is that a term we're using in professional football?
I mean, yeah. People
The
will
star
say that. People
quarterback.
say the star quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes.
To me, it was
People
very
are doing the wildest things in the NFL universe, Jodi. Like, you wouldn't believe.
To me, it was very Glee, or just very high school. You know, like the star quarterback of the town.
Something that I think the NFL universe would struggle with accepting is that there's more of a Venn diagram with the Glee universe and the vibes of the Glee universe than one might think.
That is surprising.
We're all just doing a little kickball change and breaking into song.
So on their second date, Bowen says one of my favorite lines in the film, which is she's talking about how she doesn't really get joy out of being, a star anymore because it's more about being a star than being a singer. And he, in all of his appeal as someone who just wants to help her have fun and be a good, boyfriend and date. And I'm going to say that really falls to the wayside later. I really did not like him by the end of the film. He says, so what does bring you joy? And she thinks for a second, but really just a second. It surfaces to her mind so fast. And she says, puzzles bring me joy.
Yes.
And then puzzles become a very big part of the film.
Here's what I need your take on is how did it land with you that in the universe of Christmas in the Spotlight, puzzles are not only very important, but puzzles are a seriously competitive sport. Like the goal of doing a puzzle with someone is to be the person who puts the last puzzle piece in the puzzle, thereby like winning and vanquishing your opponent.
Yeah. And it's also representative of love. And so putting that last piece in.
Right.
So it is the love, I would say, is also competitive. The way that they get together. I just kept getting the feeling, and I think this was why like this one just didn't. I obviously liked watching it because it was so funny, and I really did like the original songs. But like they just never seem like they like each other that much, and that's kind of a tough message. And I actually don't think the film was intending to send to receive about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, because it really seems like they sort of accidentally fall in love. You know, there's something about one another that they really love. They happen to not like each other.
Yeah. Well, also, I do think that they're like no one in culture, if they're being truly honest, understands what Taylor and Travis actually talk about. Like no one, whether we would be right or wrong, I think it is a thing that everybody has to start admitting that like everyone tries to picture themselves at that dinner table and comes away being a little bit like, huh.
Which is interesting because a big character trait of hers in the movie that I don't feel like is Swift-like, but is like, well, it does kind of answer that question, is she just giggles a lot. She giggles a lot. He is like an oaf, like just kind of, so their characterizations, you know, I always like to ask, like, are these two opposites? Because generally the romantic leads are opposites and then they come together. These two are just kind of like, he is supposed to be dumb. Kind of a jock. He calls himself dumb a lot.
Right.
But he does not like when other people call him dumb.
Yes.
And she is supposed to be sort of like an artist turned fame bot who, you know, all the Taylor Swift like assumptions, who just dates men and discards them to write music about them. And the whole movie is sort of careening towards them after breaking up and getting back together several times, which we will have to touch down on, telling one another, you're so much more than meets the eye. And like, that's the bond, is that they see each other in a way the world cannot see them. I would say the film also does not see them like that. Like, there's nothing that is indicating within the movie that he is not dumb. Pretty much everything points to dumb.
Yeah, well, and also I think that like what that is ultimately careening towards is kind of, it almost should be he is more than meets the eye, but in a weird way, the inverse of that is like she is somehow less than meets the eye. Like, and I think that's why they can't quite stick the landing, because it's like they want her to feel like, or at least he wants her to feel like, the way that she navigates industry and, you know, manages her own career and has made herself into the superstar, which, you know, this is a talking point about Taylor Swift. He wants to convince her. And I think the movie is on board with sort of elevating, that's a skill. Like, that's why you are who you are. That's special. You shouldn't feel like that's not artistry or blah, 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 blah. But then it's like, okay, what is she looking for? She's sort of looking for this kind of small town love that doesn't intersect with any of that. And I don't think they did a good job, or I think they struggled with like making those two ideas fit together somehow, because it's like, yes, it's good that you're a strong woman and you control your career and you're, you know, if people say it's Machiavellian, that's sexist and unfair. And then it's like, and you know what you should do is give all of that up to be with a man.
Ah, so you've watched a Hallmark film. Welcome.
Lifetime.
Well, a Lifetime. Yeah, they're all going to do it. Even Netflix, for sure. I mean, they were doing it with that Magic Mike movie. Like,
it is Sabrina Carpenter's universe, and we are all just living in it, and like everything is horny now.
And embarrassing. Like, and this man is going to embarrass me.
Yes.
Like Sabrina Carpenter wise. Yes, they, I don't know. So they have the montage of getting together. Within that montage, we see them in bed together, which would suggest that they've had premarital sex.
Yeah, no, they'd be fucking.
I just couldn't believe it. And they're always sort of suggesting that they're about to get to fucking. And that's pretty unusual. I was definitely not aroused. There was absolutely no chemistry here. But they had the montage. They really start dating. Huge reveal to me. Actually, no. Before we get to the huge reveal to me, I want to talk about her ex-boyfriend, Hudson. Everyone has the name of like a current preschool student. Hudson, Bowen. Like, these are not 30-year-olds' names. It's maybe a few. They're all spelled with like exciting Y's as well.
No, these are names for children or golden retrievers.
Right, that's correct. Or a Taylor Swift conglomerate. So Hudson is, I actually felt that everyone in this movie was a villain except for Bowen, who I mostly liked. The brother is a bit of a villain because he is not quite as supportive as he could be at times. Hudson is the obvious villain who sows discord by coming into Bowen's life. And what he ultimately does is they go to a party as like boyfriend and girlfriend, Bowen and I keep wanting to call him Gonzo.
Gronkzo.
And he basically gets bored. Like, this is a guy who's not wanting to be called dumb. And he's like,
he can't have a conversation with one person he doesn't know.
And he keeps saying like he says like they think I'm dumb, like they don't respect me, sort of. And he doesn't like that. And he truly is just bored and he storms out of the party. She has done nothing wrong. Once he storms out, the ex-boyfriend, Hudson, approaches her.
He's like kind of mean to her about it.
Yeah, it felt a little bit realistic of like getting kind of duped after your first couple of romantic dates and being like, this guy is great.
Yeah.
And then 4 or 5 dates in, when you're really starting to get serious, he like kind of disrobes himself of the Prince Charming bit and is like, I'm bored. I'm mad at you.
I'm
Take
out of
care
my comfort zone.
I'm out of my comfort zone.
It.
I don't like the canapes. Your ex-boyfriend is talking to you and you have no control over it.
Yeah.
So this woman, Bowen / Taylor Swift, does have terrible taste in men because this guy, Hudson, is like a comical villain. He also is supposed to be representative of, you tell me, but in the movie, as in real life, this pop star is known to date sort of A-list, like prestigious actors and kind of indie artistic singers.
Like thoughtful types.
Yeah. He does not play as a thoughtful type actor.
No.
He plays as like a Days of Our Lives villain.
I think the closest...
Or like an influencer. He's filming himself the whole time. He's like always surrounded by a ring light for no reason.
Yes, that part. The ring light made
It doesn't
no
make
sense.
any sense. Is he making a documentary about his life?
I forgot about the ring light. Oh, hysterical. Insane. Why the ring light? Yeah, I mean, the closest I had was that they were trying to make him actually kind of a combination of in vibe and description as one of the artsy singer, musician, actor exes, kind of a Jake Gyllenhaal vibe.
That's hilarious to imagine Jake Gyllenhaal acting like that.
Well, and Jake Gyllenhaal being, I think the We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together person, and that song being based on, I believe, Conventional Wisdom is a time when Jake Gyllenhaal sent Maroon 5 frontman Adam Levine
I'm familiar with his work, yes.
into a studio to talk to Taylor and be like, you guys are getting back together, right? And she was like, not ever. And then, we have the song.
Wow.
So I think the fact that he was doing that made me feel like he was supposed to be a Jake Gyllenhaal type.
Uh-huh.
He does not act like Jake Gyllenhaal. His vibe is not, I'm subtly Scandinavian royalty.
Yeah. No, that's not coming through. I mean, he is like just the idea that these two people ever dated each other, let alone a few months ago, they're like a recent breakup, is extremely comical. He's a very bad person. He records their conversation.
Which means that he is also playing a little bit of a Kim Kardashian role.
That's true. He is an amalgamation of all the villains in Taylor Swift's
Jake Gyllenhaal
life.
and Kim Kardashian. And actually, when you think about it that way,
now I am aroused. Thank you. We finally got there.
If you think about this character as the midpoint of Jake Gyllenhaal and Kim Kardashian, I actually think he's effective.
The actor is nailing it.
They killed it.
The actor is nailing it. He is going to be sued, the person in the film, Hudson. Because you can't just like publish a voice recording and not think that you took privately and without telling someone. He releases it. It is misconstrued because she was being sarcastic. And when she was being sarcastic, she was like, yeah, I'm just dating Gonzo. Does she call him Gonzo? I'm just dating Gonzo because I'm doing it for the PR and the fame. Another really hilarious thing that they say about football where I'm like, what is the legal issue here that is keeping them from using big, like normal, like public access terms? Is at one point her manager is like, well, if you date him, maybe you'll finally get the the midway show of that big game you've always wanted. It's like the
big
halftime
game.
show of the Super Bowl? The big game? They are talking about allegedly the NFL like it is high school football.
It's also like, couldn't they come up with, instead of just saying the big game, couldn't it be
The
like
bowl game?
The Magnum Bowl?
Anything. Yeah, like actually just make us exist in another world.
Right.
Because we're kind of like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, which brings me to a huge reveal for me. Is he, after they make up from this argument at the party where he was bored, they make up very quickly. Then he gets an offer from the LA Stars. That is a location. We know they're the LA Stars. It's going to be double his salary.
Yes.
And it would be in LA, where she lives, which is the first time it ever occurred to me, because we've seen them not travel once. We've seen them get on a plane that did not move, that this entire relationship has been spent in 2 different places, and they have been traveling back and forth to see one another.
Yes.
And that is just not a part of the movie.
To see one another and to negotiate staying in his brother's house.
Yeah, like where's she staying when...
Or she's on her plane.
Yeah, they probably just sleep and fuck on the plane, which, whatever. But then him being presented with what I feel is a good opportunity is a real... She doesn't want it, not explained. She says she's thinking, I don't want him to take that contract. And it to this point, she has not seemed scared of commitment or of spending time with him. It is just that she doesn't want him to take it, and then his brother's a real dick to him about it.
Right.
Oh, and then we really get to see fake Grunk's acting skills, because he gets, big mad. He gets big mad. And he has, like, a yelling scene. It starts at a 10, it ends at a 10. There is, he was like, this is, he obviously didn't have to audition for this. They saw him in the Aaron Hernandez shows. They said,
done.
Book him.
No
they said,
notes.
Cut, book it. You're done, girls. He didn't have to audition for this, but this would have been his audition scene.
Yes.
He said, I do drama. And then that somehow breaks them up again? No, the recording breaks them up again.
Well, and they never talk about the recording. They never,
No.
She says a lot of things like, I don't mean that. But she never says, he took me out of context. He recorded me like I was being sarcastic. If you hear the whole thing, I said that I love you and I want to be with you. She just never says that.
Does she never say it because he won't look her in the eye? And
that's true.
Petulantly zooming around his brother's house.
Yes.
I think that one might actually be his parents' house. I'm not sure. None of them are his. And she travels there to see him and explain this. And he won't look at her.
Yes. No, he's a baby back bitch about it.
He is a baby back bitch, and he becomes the villain of the film. So they sort of break up. And then for some reason, even though he's done the bad thing by not listening to her and breaking up with her, she ends up kind of hoping that he'll come back to her. She goes to the Children's Hospital Cancer Awards dinner.
Right, because she will do everything for the Children's Hospital.
Anything for the children. And in fact, that thing is write an original song right there on the spot in her notebook and then perform it acoustic. No, you tell me. I don't know. I guess actually maybe this would be exciting. Let me really ask you and not predict your answer. If you were getting to go to a private dinner, Taylor Swift is performing out of the goodness of her heart. And you're this is the closest you're going to be to her. And you're going to get to see her perform one of her songs. And she debuts a new song and doesn't do one of the hits. How do you feel about that?
If she debuted a new song, I would think it was cool.
What if she had just sort of haphazardly written it in 5 minutes about some random guy and it doesn't have a chorus?
So... if it was bad, it would be bad, and that I would not be in favor of. I do think, I think Taylor Swift debuting a cool song, a new song, and being able to see that in person, that is the type of thing where you'll see Swiftie accounts online, and they'll put in their bios, what the surprise songs were if they were deemed really good ones at the show. I think, people would be putting... what's it called? Wrapped up with a bow?
Well, the gist of the song is, and I believe it is the chorus, it's just only sung once. My love is a gift I'm giving to you.
Right.
Is it like that? Which I think is to be like, my love is a gift, not
Yes,
yours.
Not yours.
My love is a gift that I
Which-
have chosen to give to you, asshole. And not only does she sing him this original song, he's not there. He was supposed to host. He backs out. His brother comes and fills in the void. The brother and Taylor Swift, they've never spoken to each other once. And then somehow he like says all these nice words about her. So Gronk is not at the show. She sings the song and she's like, Gonzo, baby, if you're listening, I mean, she's like, if you're watching on the live feed of the Cancer Society dinner, like, I mean every word of this. And she's trying to communicate with him secretly. And I was like, girl, stand up. Like, what are you doing? He did the bad thing. And now you're trying to appeal to him. And then she sings a song. And this is where I have to tell you something really bad.
Okay.
It hasn't come up yet on Bingemas, but a question in the rubric is, did this movie make you cry?
Jodi.
I am a known crier in the Ringer podcast universe.
same.
I cry very easily at films and movies. So like these things do sometimes get me. I was not really loving this movie. When Gonzo, it was so unexpected. She finishes the song and she says, Gonzo, baby. Like, kind of like, if you take me back, I
Gonzo,
promise
baby.
I'll never fail you again. And he comes out of nowhere and he says, do you pinky promise? And I just so wasn't expecting him to come into the scene. I burst into tears. Not like sobs, but I guffawed and tears rose to my eyes. And can you imagine how ultimately humbled I was when, after I burst into tears because I was emotionally moved by him showing up and absolutely hollering about pinky promises, the very
so
next...
you cried after Pinky Promise.
Okay, well, it was a callback to their first date when they pinky promised that they wouldn't fall in love with each other. And they did, Nora. And that was set up. I was set up and I fell hook, line, and sinker. What I was not expecting is then for their ultimate declaration of love to include what had become their catchphrase throughout the film, let's freaking go. While tears were on my face, I listened to them say, she says it. That's the real twist, is now he always says that. Now she says it. Let's freaking go.
Yeah.
And that is the meaning of Christmas.
Yeah.
So I'm very sorry I've had to tell you that. But this is how I'm affected.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful film.
Wow. And then we're really going to have to get into how many times I cried in Holiday Touchdown, A Chief Love Story.
Wow. Oh, wow.
It is time to move on to the movie not about Taylor Swift, but inspired by the existence of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce falling in love. That is very much about and sanctioned by the Chiefs franchise. Hallmark's synopsis of this film, Holiday Touchdown, A Chiefs Love Story. Alana is sure that her family's lifelong history as Kansas City Chiefs superfans makes them a frontrunner to win the team's Fan of the Year contest, classic. Derek, director of fan engagement, is tasked with evaluating how Alana and her family stack up against the other two finalists. As the pair spends time together, it's clear there's a spark between them. But when her grandfather's vintage Chiefs good luck winter hat goes missing, Alana begins to doubt everything she believed about fate, destiny, and even questions her future with Derek. The girl really does spiral. Unless that is a little Christmas magic can throw a Hail Mary.
No notes.
No notes. It's perfect. What'd you think about Holiday Touchdown, A Chief's Love Story, before we get into the plot?
So, Holiday Touchdown, A Chief's Love Story. I probably watched this movie a little bit more as like a movie on its own terms than I did Christmas in the Spotlight, where I was just sort of like playing a game with myself about what did they get right or wrong about Taylor Swift, what did they get right or wrong about the NFL. I do think that this got me to engage with it on its own terms. I was a little bit like, this is Chiefs propaganda to an extent that...
I was just so thrilled to see imagery of a real football team.
Yeah.
Because that is the order I watched them in. I watched Christmas in the Spotlight.
Same.
Then I watched Holiday Touchdown, Christmas with the Cranks. And these titles are impossible.
Holiday Touchdown, Christmas with the Cranks, a love story, Taylor's version.
It's perfect. I watched them in that order, and I just honestly couldn't believe the access we were getting to actual professional football. That it comforted me in a way that like I was not going to have to see anyone run around in a practice jersey who was like clearly an English major in college. Like at one point when all those football players walk into the brother's home that that Gronk is hosting a second date in, you see the main one that you thought that guy was AI, and then you see a couple other guys in the background, and they are like the skinniest motherfuckers you've ever seen.
Yes.
Like just so not football players. But this does bring me to the most harrowing part of Christmas with the Chiefs, which is the use of AI in the beginning of this film, 10 seconds in. So the movie starts with a flashback to the backstory of Alana's family and that they were genuinely created by the Chiefs. The two sets of grandparents got tickets for their children in like the 60s to go to the Chiefs game on Christmas Day. They sat next to each other. They became fast family friends. And then those little children, everyone's an only child in this film.
Yes.
Which they love talking about. Those little children married each other and they created Alana. Okay, I'm going to circle back to the AI because you know what I want to say.
How do babies get made, Jodi?
One baby. One baby gets made.
Right, just one baby.
But when I started watching this movie and I knew that you and I were going to be discussing it, I was like, OMG, this movie is about legacy.
It really is.
About legacy. Nora and I have an ongoing bit. It's actually just my bit that Nora's like, what are you talking about?
No, I think this is the funniest thing that anyone's ever said, and it's really true.
It's because I said it completely out of context at a dinner in Sweden, and you were like, why are you saying this? But I'm on board. I just said completely out of context. I am always saying that. Men are so obsessed with legacy.
I laughed so hard.
Men
I'll
are
never stop
obsessed with
thinking
legacy.
about it.
If I know one thing, it is that men are obsessed with legacy. There's an entire Broadway play about it called Hamilton.
Yes.
Women are much less obsessed with legacy because we're busy protecting ourselves in the world.
Yeah, we are trying to make it through the day.
We're fighting a lot of battles that we don't really have a lot of time for legacy. You know who has time? Only children.
I am an only child, though.
Okay. So do you think, so Alana is the only child of her all only children family, and she is obsessed with legacy. Everything is about how her family was brought together by the Chiefs and how it was fate and how it's going to keep on going because of fate, except she never really mentions if she wants to have children. Like she kind of does,
Yeah.
but like maybe she's happy if the legacy dies with her, but it is all about legacy.
Alana is obsessed with legacy because she is a female character, but like she has been created by this sort of, arm of the NFL that's making this movie. The NFL is a very male enterprise, and I think that's why she's obsessed with legacy.
That's a really great point, because sports are also a lot about legacy.
And sports are
on
family.
account of all the men.
Yes.
And sports are family, and legacy is family. And
legacy is Christmas.
And legacy is Christmas, and Christmas is romantic love, and romantic love is magic.
Is having babies.
And that's babies. And that's, just heterosexual procreation.
Right.
Is basically what we're always trying to boil down to here. All of this to say, they present this backstory for the family that fuels the whole film with a sort of flashback that takes place in the old Chiefs Stadium. The use of AI to de-age Ed Begley Jr. is so egregious, and it is unnecessary. Again, I say, it is fine if you are not watching these films and you are just enjoying them through the crystal clear eyes of Nora Princiotti, but you gotta get your peepers on this de-aging. It is not Marvel level. Their faces look crazy. They're moving around like Play-Doh. Just hire other actors.
Yes.
That's the problem. They can't.
De-aging is crazy, but they also make him look like he came out of a coal mine.
Well, that's later when he gets the hat. When he gets the hat.
The most Depression-era ass hat I've ever seen in my entire life. Put on this artificially altered form of a man.
The AI has given him a Hitler mustache. Did you notice?
Yes, no,
his
it's
nose
literally
is casting such a shadow from the coal mines.
Do you remember cats that look like Hitler.com?
Not specifically, but I'm there with you visually.
Wow. Okay, so for me, the early 2010s, a big part of that era of the internet was the website catsthatlooklikehitler.com.
Yeah.
And I do feel that we actually could have put his visage up on the website.
Well, AI was probably kind of drawing from that website.
Right.
And
Yeah,
putting
they
it
don't always,
on
the bots don't know
Ed
what to
Begley
pull
Jr.'s
from.
face. And they didn't know any better. And Hallmark knows better. They know they can't publish this. Anyways, all of this legacy and all of this AI boils down to that this family owns, I like to ask, how ostensible are these leads' careers? And what we have here are some pretty ostensible careers.
Yeah.
Alana is the heiress to a Kansas City Chiefs fandom store.
She's a merch
merchandise
Nepo
store.
baby.
She's a merch Nepo baby, and she loves it. And she's that kind of Nepo baby that's happy to cop to it. That's what we want in our Nepo babies. She is an Allison Williams. She said, I got here because of privilege. I had a leg in, and now I do a good job, and I'm talented.
Yeah.
And so actually, I was very shocked to find that this is not a business in disrepair or in financial ruin, which is often the case in these movies.
We have to save the inn.
We have to save the inn. We have to have a fundraiser to, save the Kansas City Chiefs store. But no, they're actually doing fine. What they're looking for...
Do you know what would have been so funny? Football teams are always pretending that they're poor to get, real people to pay for their stadiums.
No, see, you saying that is me saying men are obsessed with legacy.
No, football
teams are always pretending that they're poor.
They're doing it all the time. They're always fucking doing it. They're always being like, taxpayers, we're so hungry.
I have got to watch one of these big games. I have got to get in tune with the star quarterback.
No, they're always like, we'll never get the big game unless you build us a stadium. What about pop?
They have also come straight from the coal mines.
Yes, that's my impression of an NFL team that wants to build itself a new stadium using taxpayer funding. Anyway, it would have been really funny if they had made this movie about how they needed to save the stadium and do a fundraiser.
If they had done that, they would have had to get more than 12 extras in the background of these scenes, and that is simply not an option.
Yeah, right.
They are doing everything they can to film as many scenes as possible in an entirely
maybe
empty
Hallmark
stadium.
Needs to do a fundraiser.
Hallmark does need to do a fundraiser. Hallmark, based in Kansas
City, Missouri.
It's all synergy, baby. And what Alana wants to do is not save her business from financial ruin, but it's not even bring it into the next century. She just wants a little free marketing. And there's no better way to establish legacy than to take it big. And so she has applied for the Fan of the Year award.
Real thing.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Teams have a Fan of the Year, and it's a whole thing. I actually met the Buffalo Bills Fan of the Year from last year.
Did you guys
a few weeks ago
fall in love in an epic Christmas-based love story?
No.
Well, who could have seen
he did talk to me about
coming?
his barbecue recipe.
Well, there's barbecue in this too. You are living in a Hallmark movie,
Yeah,
Nora.
by the way, the whitest barbecue establishment in Kansas City is in this movie.
It's Norma and Rob's barbecue. Yes, incredible stuff. Alana has gotten her family nominated as a finalist for the Fan of the Year award. Meanwhile,
against one other family doing something that I'm forgetting, and then
a cat.
Patrick Mahomes, the cat that looks like Patrick Mahomes.
It's a pretty good bit.
Which, by the way, first plot hole in this movie, no fucking way anyone's beating out Patrick Mahomes.
No.
Patrick is the Fan of the Year.
And they do.
20
they all
times
know
over.
it. They all know it. They're like, we're not beating Patrick Mahomes. But then they do.
The other thing being that Patrick Mahomes, he's really just a cat that they put a Patrick Mahomes wig on.
Which is a pretty rude wig to Patrick Mahomes. It is it does not look like his hair. This is a great point. I am not I've never had a cat, so I'm not super. Sometimes I don't pay attention to cat content, obviously, with the cats
that look like
cats
Hitler.
that look like Hitler.com. And I think I wasn't paying that, but when I reflect on it, I'm like, that cat didn't look like Patrick Mahomes at all.
No, but I think he's a real thing in real life, and he still doesn't look that much like Patrick Mahomes. He just wears a Patrick Mahomes
I think
wig.
it's possible that Patrick Mahomes just doesn't look that much like a cat.
Sure.
And so maybe it's just kind of a cyclical situation.
Right. Really, what they're relying on is that Patrick has an A and a T in it, and Cat also has an A and a T in it.
It's just a classic pun.
Right.
And everyone knows that it's working and that they are going to lose probably. But before they really even get into these finals and the other contestants, we just know that this contest exists. And a sort of mysterious, kind of rough around the edges, but dressed very sharply man rolls in to town. And by town, I mean Independence, which is the fake small town that we're dealing with. But interestingly, in this film, we are also dealing with a very real town, Kansas City.
Well, but I think Independence is...
Oh, is it real?
I think it's a real, like, village or neighboring sort of hamlet.
And does it look like it's made out of cardboard boxes and, like, shipping containers?
Jodi? Yes.
That town looks like I could blow it away.
Home to the Harry S. Truman Presidential Library and Museum.
It's
and
cute.
That's what I've got.
It's cute. Wow. Yeah, it is a strange experience of watching this movie is that it is really set in like a world that we know. Like,
yes,
they are legally allowed to say Patrick Mahomes' name.
Yes.
And be in Kansas City. Now, does it appear that you can walk 2 steps from Independence and be in Kansas City? And are these people constantly just stumbling upon one another? Yes. And
okay, Independence, here's the thing though. Arrowhead Stadium is like, it may actually even be in Independence. They're close by.
Wow.
This all checks out.
Wow. Okay. Well, I love it. And what we know about Independence, the real place, it is that it's got the best, whitest barbecue in town. And this man, who is played by Tyler Hynes. Are you familiar with Tyler Hynes' work on Hallmark?
Only vaguely as a sort of canonical Hallmark male lead.
He is a sort of like particular obsession of mine because he's a very different kind of Hallmark lead. Well, he's the same kind of Hallmark lead in that Canadian accent is going to come through one way or another. At one point, he's like, "Oh, is it okay if I burrow it?" I was like, "My guy, you gotta." It is a part of his character that he is a traveler.
Right.
He grew up in Europe.
Right. It's like they never make it clear whether what they're going for here is like military brat or like he's the Princess of Genovia.
He does not seem worldly. Like it is in the text that he grew up in all different places in Europe because his family traveled a lot.
And then what does he know? He IDs that there's saffron.
Which saffron in the eggnog. These people are drinking eggnog like it's fucking
going
water.
out of style.
They are gonna have such digestive issues. Like at one point they're having an eggnog party and the grandpa comes out with round 4. Round 4 of an egg-based drink? Are you insane?
An egg and cream
based drink. Take or leave the saffron.
It's actually like this is making me feel ill.
I do feel ill. But this movie, much more so than Christmas in the Spotlight, is like it has all the hits.
Yes.
Like gingerbread baking, you got it. You know, ice skating, you got it. Eggnog, it's
ice skating where they do not ice skating shot from the knees up. Entire ice skating sequence where you never see the ice or the skates.
Tyler Hynes and Joey King's sister are just scooting those little feet. There is not a blade in sight. But Tyler Hynes, he's always like, he's kind of like the bad boy of Hallmark. And he exists in this franchise called The Three Wise Men that they now make like every year. And it's about these 3 brothers. And he's like the bad boy brother. But I do find him a very charming on-screen presence. I thought they had good chemistry. And their meet cute was pretty good. He comes into town. She does not know that he works for the Chiefs.
Because he can't tell anyone that he works for the Chiefs.
He can't tell anyone or they'll be knocking down the door. His new colleagues, he has come from somewhere in Europe to be the fan coordinator for the marketing department of a deeply American football team. He doesn't know shit about football, this team, or its fans. And I actually do give it a credit to Tyler Hynes that like that never really bothers me.
Yeah.
I was on board. It's fine. You're bad at your job. You got, promoted upward. Like
he doesn't know Chiefs history.
Nothing. Like he doesn't like know anything about how a person becomes a fan of football, which seems like a big part of being the fan engagement
Right. It also would have been so easy to be like, oh, we moved around a lot. Like I lived in Europe. I wanted this connection to home.
Yeah.
And therefore like
I
football
used to
was so
live
important
here.
to me.
My grandparents lived here. They're dead. Everyone's dead. No, the only person who's dead in this movie is her grandmother. Is
Right.
the only one of her grandmothers is the only missing piece of this puzzle, to
Right.
quote a different movie.
Right. And the other grandmother is like deeply concerned that she's going to die without a great grandchild.
Oh, if this woman, if Joey King's sister,
Is
Alana,
not popping out a baby.
doesn't find
Too
heterosexual love and get a baby out of her, this family is freaking out. They are so obsessed
Their
with
legacy is dead.
The legacy is going to die. He rolls into town and just immediately spends the entire day with her family. They set the meddling grandparents and parents set them up, and he's just down to clown. They do, when they sit down together, I was like, these two have kids. This is a love story that I buy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they not immediately, after a full day spent together where the connection is there, he arrives at their family business, the Kansas City Chiefs store, and he's like, ruh-roh, how am I going to keep it a secret that I work for the Chiefs? Because if I tell people that I work for the Chiefs, they're going to ask me for something, which I'm sure is true. But, it's like, I would actually kind of like to take this on ourselves and be like, we cannot tell people that we work at the Ringer, or they will ask us to write a blog.
Right.
They are going to ask us to start talking into a microphone, absolutely screaming into a microphone, and we just can't have that. It's like, my guy, you actually seem to like giving people tickets and engaging with the fans,
right.
so I think it's fine.
I'm going to venture a guess that, yes, Kansas City is a relatively small NFL city. I'm sure it's a different experience having a role like that there than it is like being the fan coordinator for the Jets and hanging out in New York.
Sure.
I'm going to venture a guess that person in real life doesn't have to keep their job a secret.
He's not like getting panties flung at his face because he is the fan engagement coordinator.
Now that's a movie I'd watch.
That's a movie you did watch. It happened just off screen because Joey King's sister, who plays Alana, was losing her mind for this guy. I mean, they are liking one another. And then they get back to this store. He realizes how much they like the Chiefs. And then they start telling him about the true family legacy, which is that they are in possession of a magic hat.
Magical Christmas hat.
A magical Christmas hat that her grandfather, Ed Begley Jr., former coal miner, current grandpa, widowed.
This is actually a movie about how much Ed Begley Jr. loves hats.
He loves them so much. And I will tell you, all the times I cried were in direct relation to him because he was just really tugging at the heartstrings for me and his love for his wife, his love for hats. So when he was a young man, he was given a hat by a Santa who we only see just a hand and a pair of lips on. And you better believe that's coming back up. He's given a because he donated to the Santa's bucket. We are constantly seeing a Santa throughout this film who is so giant, he would be impossible not to notice. Yeah. This man is like 6'6". That's a big Santa. And he is always collecting money. There's nothing about his dress, his bucket, or his general demeanor that seems like he's collecting money for the Salvation Army. Like, it just seems like he's holding a bucket and getting money.
Right.
He is, once again, not a benevolent Santa, I feel. So he donates money. No one else is donating money because they've just come from the coal mines and they don't have cash tech avail. And so he gives money to the Santa. As a reward, the Santa gives him a Chiefs hat. That year, he wears it on Christmas. Chiefs win the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Then he loses it for decades. And then they find it again.
And the Chiefs are terrible for all of those decades.
They never win. It's because of the hat, but we don't know it's because of the hat just yet. Someone brings a vintage hat into the store. It's Grandpa Paul's hat. My guy puts it on at Christmas time. They win the Super Bowl. They win the Super Bowl. Again, they don't win the Super Bowl one year, and everyone has some questions about that.
Right.
Come to find out, spoiler, they didn't win that year because Grandpa Paul had a heart attack.
And they were in the hospital.
And they were unable to wear that hat.
And they didn't bring the hat.
They were not unable.
Even though all he could think about when he was in the hospital was the Chiefs, they didn't bring their Chiefs hat.
You know why they probably didn't bring it? Because they probably lost it again. This family loses everything. At one point, they're in an ornament store, and she's like, oh, I've been looking for this for ages. My grandpa Paul gave this ornament to my grandma before she died, and then we lost it. It's like, hold on to your valuables, people. You literally run a Chiefs store. How are you losing all this Lucky Chiefs merchandise? So they get the hat back. Now, a big part of their fan story and how they're going to win Fan of the Year ultimately becomes this magic hat. But when she first tells Derek, the fan engagement coordinator, about it, he does not have the response that the family would want.
He does not think the hat is magic.
He does not believe in Christmas hat magic, if you can imagine.
And he even kind of thinks it's insulting. Like, you don't think the players won that game? You don't think Patrick Mahomes is good enough to win the game without the help of a hat?
It's a great point, Derek. I'm a bit of like a pragmatist myself. And I'm just like, you guys are acting like insane children. Like, this is mostly the insane child part of it. Is that he doesn't buy into the lore, the magic, or the superstition. And she says, get the fuck out of my shop.
Yeah.
She is
I hate you.
So mad. And the whole family turns on him. But
don't you dare come for the Christmas hat, the magic Christmas hat.
Don't you ever set foot in Independence, Missouri again.
Get out.
Get out. Go back to where you came from, the Chiefs Stadium, where you apparently live. We see you nowhere else. Once again, why don't these men have homes? Rent if you can't own. Like, you are not viable romantic prospects. Get a second pillow. Buy a home. Anyways, he gets out of town because they are starting to look real pitchforky. And then, would you believe that he gets back to work and he is assigned his family to assess for the Fan of the Year award? And it's this family.
Oh, yeah.
And he shows back up, and instead of turning it around, Alana gets even meaner. She hates him even more now that she's found out that he works for the Chiefs. He didn't tell her.
He lied.
He lied, and he must have, like, gotten some nepotism to get into this job, because how is he qualified?
Right.
But ultimately, he actually is pretty good at the job, and he pitches a lot of things. Even though she basically runs him out of the town a second time, he goes back to his boss, and he's like, they've got this magic hat. Isn't it a great story? And she says, run it, print it, cut it, cut. You go, girls. We're running this story as a feature. And so then they basically get a leg up in the fan competition. Yeah. And so then—
kind of unfair, honestly.
Oh, it's judged just by, like, random business executives at the Chiefs. I mean, I don't know. I guess I actually don't know how
I feel like that's probably true to life. I don't know for a fact, and maybe the teams do it differently, but, like, that part seemed real to me.
That could be very real. It just seems quite haphazard for how into it she is. And so they do the feature. A lot of this movie is about, like, the power of marketing. It is very much just a movie about marketing.
Which is an annoying feature of, your Emily in Paris's, and, like, there's a certain amount of TV and movies where, like, we can't come up with a better bland job that can kind of require any task that anyone thinks of other than marketing. So there's just, like, a lot of people in marketing roles, I feel, in our current TV and movies.
Yeah, and what they should really be doing is making these movies about consultants, because nobody knows what
that is.
No
one knows what they do.
Including consultants. And they're fine with it.
Yeah.
They don't need to know. They just get paid the money, and they do whatever the job is.
And they get those airline miles.
And they get those miles. Oh, they are gold status members. And that, he did come across like a consultant.
Yeah, he was definitely a Delta girly.
He was. So he gets into it. They get into it. The fan engagement is happening. I could not believe at this point what a big part of the story the hat becomes. Like, the movie is entirely about the hat's magic, and it actually becomes this sort of, like, interesting existential crises for Alana, who's, like, addicted to the story of the hat.
Yes.
And ultimately what happens is that they lose that hat, if you can believe it. They lose the hat again.
Well, do they lose it? Or does the hat get stolen?
Or was it stolen by Santa Claus? This Santa, and he even says, so, like, they're like, I don't even remember what they're at that he asks her to bring the hat to. They've also fully fallen in love by this point. Well, it's like, but they're in, like, what appears to be kind of like a job like a job fair. Remember, they're at the table and it's on the head.
Oh, well, they're right. It's on the football, and people
Or the
are like, "Can I try on the magic hat?" And she's like, "No,
Yeah.
we don't want to mess with the stuff." But then she looks away for like 1 second at Patrick Mahomes, maybe, and then it's gone.
And the last person she spoke to, and
Santa.
Derek points this out, was Santa. Can I tell you one of the times I cried?
I can't even imagine what it would be in this text. Yes.
It's definitely not about the hat. Everything's a little about the hat. When they invite him for Christmas Eve, and they say no presents. I'm going to cry right now. He brings a present, and it is the original seats from the original stadium, and he doesn't even know that the actual seat he's gotten. And where the hell did he find these seats?
You can actually buy those on what catalog was selling like 5 years ago?
Sky Mall.
Seats from the old Yankee Stadium.
It's cool. It's
Yeah.
a cool gift, especially if your family is absolutely obsessed with their legacy and the Chiefs. And one of the seats belonged to the dead grandmother. And this is so deeply moving to Ed Begley Jr. that he is ready to marry them right there in those seats. And I guarantee you in the sequel, they will be married in those seats. They will be buried in those seats when we watch a Hallmark film about their grandchildren, because the legacy has continued, because they do fall in love. But uh-oh.
Oh, no.
The hat disappears / gets stolen by Santa, and everything falls apart. She loses it. Like, she is so, and I actually thought they did a pretty good job of building this character to be like, she is so attached to this idea of fate, and that like fate is what holds her family, her livelihood, and the entire world together, that when it is fated, that, and by this point, they have won the Fan of the Year award. So what she now knows is that everyone knows the story about this hat because she hasn't shut up about it the whole movie. That if the Chiefs lose the Super Bowl, everyone will blame them. And
they'll boycott the store and they'll hate them.
And she's right. People keep being like, no, like,
the Chiefs fans wouldn't do that. Yes, they would.
They would be so mad. They would find any reason to not just chalk up a lose.
They will run you out of town.
They will be like, it could be anything to say that like, no, the men just hit each other different today, and that's why they lost. Like, they're going to find a reason, and that reason, was that a bad description of football?
That was incredible.
I'm pretty sure that would be why they might lose, not because of the hat, but the fans won't care. They will blame her and the hat. But so she has this crisis, and she basically tells her new boyfriend, like, nothing is meant to be, including us. It's very dark.
Right.
And he says, no thanks, and he leaves. But then like 10 minutes later, he's ready to win her back. Everyone keeps acting like they're winning someone back who they've broken up with because that person was mean to them. So they go to the game. Part of winning is getting to go to the Christmas game. She knows she doesn't have the hat, and so she cannot face accepting the award on the field, knowing she doesn't have the hat and everyone's going to be mad. That gets resolved pretty quickly. He just goes out and gets her, then brings her in. And then, would you believe that she is presented this award by Jenna Bush herself?
Yes. Oh my gosh. When Jenna showed up.
Jenna, it's not, they don't even say like, here to present the award is Jenna, but Jenna Bush is just there.
I mean, there were cameos from like Andy Reid and a bunch of Chiefs players and all of these different things. And then all of a sudden, Jenna was the most random one to me.
Jenna shows up, and Alana, I guess, feeling the comfort of Jenna Bush's presence there. I'm sure she's a big Fourth Hour Today Show watcher. She says, hey, can I grab that mic? In a giant football arena, stadium, national, so many people, live cameras, Christmas Day, she says, hey, can I get that mic? And I was moved by her speech, and I did tear up.
I love it. I love it.
She talks about legacy. She says, you know, I was really embarrassed about losing this hat, and she should be because she's a grown woman who cannot hold on to things. But she realized that the magic is not the hat. The magic is the people, and the people are in the hat.
And that everyone is together.
And that everyone's together. And so everyone decides not to kick her out of the stadium. They let her stay. They're invited up to the press box or up to the big president's box. They don't go. They go sit in their seats.
Because that's where they
that
belong.
one day they will gift to their grandchildren, and I will cry about watching a Hallmark
After the
movie.
Kansas City Chiefs build a new stadium
That's
with
correct.
taxpayer money.
That's correct. Yeah, it all comes back. And would you believe that big giant Santa Claus comes and sits down next to them? Okay, actually, the reason that I cried was not because of her speech. It was the reveal that Derek had arranged to make her feel better. They said, Oprah style, look under your seats, 100,000 people. You probably haven't looked under there yet. You haven't set anything on the ground.
You haven't seen it.
Look under your seats. And there was a replica of the vintage hat
Everybody
for
has a hat,
everyone. They
and
all put
everybody
on the
puts
hat.
it on.
See, Nora's crying. You can't see it, but
No,
she's crying.
that was moving. But then, kind of in the same beat as when Gonzo drops the let's freaking go at the end of Christmas in the Spotlight, the let's freaking go of Holiday Touchdown : A Chief's Love Story is that after this like beautiful gesture, tear-inducing gesture, I agree, and where everybody puts on the hats, you feel like they're gonna win the game, and that's the meaning of Christmas. Santa Claus shows up again, revealing that he has stolen the hat. He did this.
He said, here you go. Just wanted to teach you a little lesson about humanity. It's so unkind to this woman. She was pulling her own hair out. She almost ruined the love story of her life.
She was
Santa stole
almost
this
run
hat.
out of town. She was almost like destroyed her family business.
Run out of independence. Can you imagine?
I can't. I simply can't.
They have no question.
I needed to ask you this because like, I know that, sort of like magic plays a role in some of these movies, but it's a type of magic that's not quite fantasy, but it's just sort of like snowmen can come to life and things like that.
Yes.
And
it's
so
Christmas magic.
When I watched it, I was like, am I misunderstanding? And what they're trying to communicate is that like Santa has used the power of Christmas magic to produce the hat. Or is it what it seems like, even though it's going completely unaddressed, which is that Santa Claus is a dirty, rotten thief?
That's the one. It always comes up because like he's a trickster. Like Santa Claus is always a trickster in these movies. Generally, he's a little old man that you've been seeing and then you suddenly understand that he is Santa. This is a big, not that old man who's always Santa. And then you realize he's been there throughout this family's entire life. Like their legacy is actually not due to the Chiefs. It's due to Santa stealing things from them and then occasionally giving them back when they need a life lesson. So yes, it is magic. It is the magic of a parable about shedding yourself of the notion that everything is fated and that you cannot make a life and a family for yourself. And I guess that is the meaning of Christmas.
That's beautiful.
As stated by the film Christmas with the Chiefs, as I understand it to be
Touchdown.
called. Touchdown, cut, roll it. You heard it, girls. You're done. Nora Princiotti, thank you for joining Bingemas. Thank you to our producer, Sasha, and our producer, Belle. Thank you to my friends, Aaron's elementary school class for our Bingemas jingle. And thank you to Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce for inspiring the love stories of a lifetime. See you back here next week. Bye.